Hey guys, so for this video I'll be continuing my K-pop recommendation series. So if you haven't watched the previous videos, I'm basically recommending full-length albums that I really enjoy every single song from. And if I'm doing one per group, so if there's other albums for a certain group, I will talk about those albums for a bit as well. But it would just be very long to just recommend all of those albums. So I'm picking like my favorites from that certain group and then discussing it later on. It will make sense as I talk about each album. So let's get started. So the first album that I'm going to talk about is Sistar's Give It To Me. This is their second full-length album, and as I was saying earlier, they have a first full-length album which I also really recommend, but this Give It To Me is more mature than So Cool. So Cool has that very K-pop-ish sound. So if you like songs from Brave Brothers, you're going to love So Cool, because what's great about that album is that they include all of the singles they released. So Push It, Shady Girl, and How Dare You, and they also add a special version of My Boy, which is a Sister 19 song, but it's sung by the 4 members. And then you get a couple new songs plus the single So Cool. So that one's more of a compilation album if you didn't get those singles, so that's a good way to start your K-pop collection for Sistar if you're wanting to do that. But on the other hand, Give It To Me is a much more mature type of album, and they kind of kept up with this sound for a long time, for basically since they released Loving You and Alone. Ever since Alone, they've kind of kept up a certain vibe, which is completely separate from that Brave Brothers sound. So it's that sister vibe. So the title track for this is Give It To Me, so I bet a bunch of you have heard it before, but this album is perfect for summer because it has those really upbeat songs, but it has those chill, the way I describe it is just sitting by the beach and just listening to the ocean waves, like the waves, the sounds of waves. I don't know if that makes any sense, but they're really relaxing songs. But I recommend listening to The Way You Make Me Melt, Bad Boy, Hey You, Summertime, every song in here. Like I said in every one of these videos, I recommend every single song here. And then also the thing about this album is like I don't know if it's out of print, but it is pricey for still, like it's really expensive. So get to it, because once it's out of print, I don't know how many people are going to sell it at an overpriced way to extent. But really highly recommend listening to this, and it has that Sistar summer sound, so I think this one's perfect for summer more than anything. So really enjoyed this comeback from Sistar. I would say that Give It To Me sounds a little bit like Pandora by Kara. If you haven't heard that song, you try to listen to both songs at the same time. They kind of sound similar, but it's like completely different when it comes to like the chorus and things like that. But highly recommend this one and So Cool, and their mini albums as well, but these are just full-length albums. So now we get a complete different sound and concept when it comes to music. Here we have IU's second full-length album, Last Fantasy. This is her second full-length album, and this is the special version of it, or like the limited edition. This one's difficult to get, but I'm really happy that I have it. This one, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the best-selling K-pop albums digitally, because like almost every single song here like was a hit, even though it wasn't necessarily promoted. This one, if you really like that very fairy tale orchestra sounding type of music, because it keeps up with the vibe of You and I, which is a single for this one, oh my gosh, I recommend every single song from this. It may not be for everybody. I think everyone should at least listen to it, because this is an iconic release. When it was, I still remember when this album was dropped, like it was like the first time ever, like all the songs in it were like ranking either all of them within like the top 20. But yeah, it was a huge hit. I remember how big this was. Highly recommend listening to this. IU does reinvent herself with her album, so this doesn't sound like Modern Times, or it doesn't sound like the first full-length album either, and definitely doesn't sound like Palette. I think that's the name of the fourth full-length album. But highly recommend listening to this one. This was my favorite IU release in terms as just a whole full-length album, because the first one is good. Modern Times is very experimental. I highly recommend listening to that one because that one's very jazz and Latin inspired, and the fourth one is amazing as well. But this one, it just takes you to a whole nother world. A whole nother world is just like a fairy tale, basically. It's a fantasy. So it's a good title for this album. And then moving on to, again, really contrasting albums. So here I have 2 a.m. Saying O'Clock. This is their first full-length album, and this one, I really wanted to talk about this one because this is one of my ultimate favorite K-pop albums as well. Really underrated, and if you are into ballads, I highly recommend listening to 2 a.m.'s music in general, but they've did a good job with this one because they have some upbeat songs in here, so it's not just a whole album filled with ballads. The singles were great. I wanted a music video for the last song in here, which is I Can't Say I Love You, which is, oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with that track. Like, if there's any song you should listen to from this album, is the last one. It's the 11th track, I Can't Say I Love You by 2 a.m. Really highly recommend listening to this album. It's just amazing. This is a limited edition, and it's really unfortunate that we really haven't heard anything from 2 a.m. in a long time. But really recommend listening to this more than anything that they've done because it's a good mix, and really proud of them with this release. I can't get enough with this. And then another artist that kind of doesn't get enough attention anymore, the Bright Eyed Girls. For them, highly recommend listening to all of their full-length albums because it shows an evolution of music, basically, because they first started out with R&B and soul music for the first two. Then the third one, Sound G, is a electronic inspired album. That's the album that has Abracadabra, and this one is I don't know how to describe it. This one's really theatrical. Sixth Sense is an amazing song. I think it's one of the best K-pop songs ever released, along with Abracadabra. But Sixth Sense is like a whole nother level. It's just even with just the title, it's like Sixth Sense. Those high notes with Kain and Jaya and Narsha, the rap for Mirio in that title track, and Sixth Sense, iconic. Everything was pure perfection during this era. This album doesn't have a lot of songs, but every single song left me speechless. And then this is a repackage that includes Cleansing Cream, and that's such a haunting song. It puts you in a mood. Sometimes it makes me depressed and it makes me cry sometimes. The music video is so beautiful. Honestly, please guys, check out the repackage of the Bright Eyed Girls album Sixth Sense. I guess I don't know if they call it I don't know if they call it Cleansing Cream. I think it's just called Sixth Sense, the repackage. And other than that, listen to everything that they've done. Every single album from them is amazing. There's not an album that I don't like from the Bright Eyed Girls, because the one thing that I do admire from them, and they've always done, and this is why they take a long time to produce albums, is because they get sent a lot of demos. They get a lot of writers, and especially one of the best writers in Korea, who helped produce a lot of Gain's title tracks and a lot of the music that IU has released. She also is involved in a majority of the Bright Eyed Girls discography, but it's just every single song is amazing. And the thing, and like I was saying earlier, they've get sent hundreds and hundreds of songs, and they're really selective and picky when it comes to adding them to an album. So you do get a piece of work that is cohesive and makes sense. The music videos are just flawless. Like I have never been disappointed by them ever. They always reinvent themselves, and I don't know if they'll be releasing an album anytime soon, because they usually just take like a 2 to 3 year hiatus and then release an album. But since Nasha got married and just kind of it's just been, and then Kain has had some issues with like how the media, and then with her personal life. So I don't know what's going on. I do really want a new album from them very soon, and hopefully we get more of a clues regarding what they're gonna do in the future. They do say in a lot of interviews that they're going to continue until the very end. They are the longest lasting K-pop girl group with like without member changes and things like that. So I'm glad that they stuck together. And if you want some quality music, listen to the Bright Eyed Girls. I cannot stress this enough. And then for all of these groups, honestly, I highly recommend all of their discographies. But Bright Eyed Girls are like on another level when it comes to just changing up their sound. Completely amazing. Like if I have to say anything about each of these artists, ballads, 2 a.m. Fairy tale, otherworldly type of music, IU. Summer fun, Sistar. And reinvention, Bright Eyed Girls. Honestly, I highly recommend all of these, all of their discographies for all of these artists. But please check them out, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I still have a few more albums to recommend. Some of them are actually on the way here, so look forward to, also aside from talking about these albums for videos, I'll be making a haul with new albums that were released this year, with some older albums, so, and new and older, a lot of newer releases, older albums, a big haul of everything, a collection video for Girls' Generation, a whole K-pop album collection, so all of my albums all put together, a review of Girls' Generation solos, continuing some Q&A questions, and yes, so that's about it for what upcoming videos to look out for. I'm really just desperately oh, and then also before another video, I will be making a part 3 of my Korean mall experience, which isn't really good as of right now. I'm still waiting on a package that I ordered 2 weeks ago, and I will be making notes for that one so I don't miss any details regarding a kind of my final review of Korean mall, because that store is a mess. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions, please comment down below, or if you want to request a video or something, maybe I can make one. Just ask me and I'll tell you if I can make it or not. So yeah, those are like upcoming videos that I have planned. And yeah, so if you're curious about any of my collection for these, I've uploaded collections for them as well. They're under a playlist on my channel. It's called my K-pop album collection. So before I finish off the video, but thank you guys for watching, and see you on the next video. Bye.